Welcome back to Old School Sports and more OOTP 22 action with the Miami Marlins. We are at the start of the 2026 season. Our goal to hopefully keep our job is to have a 500 or better season. Our owner is angry at the moment, not pleased with how we have done in recent years. We will see how this season goes. I mentioned 500 ball is one of the big goals. Improving our team batting average from worst in the league is a goal. And then signing Trevor Rogers this season, and we have signed him to an extension. So we are going to kick off the season and see how things go. Hopeful that we will be more successful this season than we have in some of the recent seasons. As you can see, during the 5 years we've been GM of the team, we were steadily getting better, and now we're steadily getting worse. And if we get worse than that putrid 66 and 96 record we had last season, we are not going to be employed for very long, that's for sure. Well, we're a month into the season, and we're one game over 500, although we have lost 3 in a row, but at least it's not a complete disaster right out of the starting gate. We have had a few injuries, but nothing that has crippled us, obviously, based on the fact that we are, still having a winning record. But we do have a starting pitcher, William Sowers, with a partially torn labrum, who's going to be out for 3 months. Brigman, as we've talked about, and Lorenzen are out. And then our starting center fielder, Mo Hampton, has been out for a while at this point. Only played 7 games for us before he got hurt. So, I've dealt with a couple of injuries, but other than that, we're not horrible so far, so that's positive. So we're going to continue to see how the season moves along and hopefully make some progress. Well, it's only been a little bit over a week since the last time we reported in, and the good news is we're an additional game over 500 at 17 and 15. So I think some of what we did in the off season is finally working. The bad news, and the main reason that I'm kind of reporting in, is just that the injury situation for us is getting ridiculous. We just lost one of our lefties, one of our 2 lefties out of the bullpen, Keegan Aiken, to a ruptured disc. He's out for the year. Starting second baseman Christian Arroyo is out for 2 to 3 weeks. And Griffin Conine now, who led the team in WAR last season and became our starting left fielder because of the season-ending injury to Michael Lorenzen, is now out for the rest of the season for post-concussion syndrome. So really struggling with injuries so far has enabled us to bring up some of the young guys from AAA to see how they do, along with a mix of some veterans from AAA also who hopefully will slide into the lineup when they need to and keep the things moving forward for us. So we remain optimistic about the season, but a lot of serious injuries for May 9th, that's for sure. Well, we've made it to June 1st, and although we're in last place in the very competitive NL East, we still have a winning record, so we are fighting the good fight. The injury situation is still rough and getting rougher, believe it or not. We just lost our rookie closer, Matt Olson, who had done a pretty nice job for us, picking up 10 saves with a 2.29 ERA to a torn labrum for 4 months. So although we have gotten Christian Arroyo back in the lineup, which is helpful, and we actually have moved Dominic Smith into left field from first base because we've just had so many injuries in the outfield. You look at the significant injuries that we have, and it's definitely not positive. 5 months, 8 months, 4 to 5 months, 4 months, 7 to 8 months, 8 weeks, partially torn labrum is a good thing for us. And look at all these guys on the 60-day IL. So we are still moving forward. We're going to be heading to the amateur draft and the All-Star break in the coming weeks. But we've got at least Arroyo back in the starting lineup, and we will see if we can perhaps get on a little bit of a run. The injuries just continue to pile up for us. Shuta Murakami, who was our big free agent signing in the offseason as an international free agent and has done a good job for us so far with a 6-2 record and a 2.91 ERA. Just ended up on the injured list for the better part of 2 months. So we're fighting the good fight. You can see that we've got a 37-35 record, but actually until the last week we had gotten on a little bit of a positive run. We're 37-35 despite that we've lost 7 in a row, and we're 2-8 in our last 10. So we had actually been competing for the division with the best teams just a week ago, but as you can see, last year's World Series champions, the New York Mets, are the one team that we're ahead of in this very competitive division. It feels like we finally kind of have made some of the moves we needed to in the offseason to be a legitimate team, but the injuries are getting to be a bit draining, because we would be much better off if we were fighting without one hand tied behind our back. But that being said, we're going to keep doing the best we can to move this season forward. Well, we've made it to the midway mark of the season, and we are a game above 500. Sadly for us, that's kind of meeting our goal. We've got to have just as good a second half. Not that it was a great first half, but if we can play 500, we should be able to keep our job and compete for another season. We've also moved our batting average up to 9th in the league from 17th, which is positive. So things are better than they have been, but they're still not great. You can see that the NL East is just a very bunched and competitive division. Only 7 games separating first to last, and only one team, the Mets, below 500, although we are just barely hanging on at this point. When we take a look at how the team has actually done over the course of the season, looking at team statistics, 9th in batting average, which was what we focused on, but we're still not the worst team in the league in most offensive categories, but still certainly not the best. When we look at pitching, definitely better on that front, more of a middle-of-the-pack team to kind of the top third of the team in some of the different categories. So a more competitive team than we've had in the past, but still a lot of work to do. Kind of looking a little more deeply into how the team is performing. Looking at batting stats, no one really having a huge season for us. Jesus Sanchez, fortunately, has bounced back. Leads the team, or tied for the team lead in WAR with Carlos Correa. Between the two of them, only one game missed. Both of them on pace for 20 homers, around 80 ribbies. OPSs, particularly in the case of Sanchez, up to close to 800, so that's really good. Griffin Conine, as you know, is lost for the season, which is unfortunate. He was having another really good year for us before he got hurt. Christian Arroyo doing fine, although he has missed some time with injuries. And then Freddie Galvis has been very, very durable at shortstop, not hitting much, but doing enough there defensively. The big disappointment is Dominic Smith, one of the top paid players on our team. Has been in the lineup every day, but a 226 batting average and barely a 300 OBP. His WAR is just 0.1 for the season. So that's very, very disappointing. We will see how the second half emerges. Hopefully the team will be a little healthier, and we will start getting some of the people we're missing back as the season moves along to give us a little boost. Looking at pitching, kind of a similar story there, where things are mixed but constructive, I would say. As I mentioned, Murakami has been on the DL, but has been a really good free agent signing for us so far. And then Eduard Bizarredo, who previous reliever, who's now in the rotation, has done well for us. And then Corbin Martin, who was a free agent signing, has spent time in both the rotation and the bullpen, and also generated a WAR of 1. Mentioned that our young closer, Matt Olson, before he got injured, was doing a decent job for us. The disappointing part is our highest paid player, Trevor Rogers, continues to have looked like the first few years of his career were the peak of his career. We are going to be facing a decision with him with an expensive option year coming this offseason. Going to be very hard for us to agree to extend him for a season and pick up that option with the way he's pitched over the last few years. That being said, we're still above 500. We're performing better than we have over the last couple of seasons, so we are going to start heading towards the amateur draft and the trade deadline in the coming weeks. We'll see if there's anything interesting on the trade block from other teams that we can pick up. We don't have a ton of room to add people at this point, but we're also at the point in the season where if we see a surplus in something we own, or we have a higher priced player that we know we're not going to be bringing back on the final year of their contract, it may make sense for us to try to open up a little space in the budget by trading players like that away, and that may either get us some prospects and or allow us to make another trade to bring on someone who can help us a little more this season. The benefit of our bad season last year was that we've got the 4th pick in the amateur draft this season, so we are on the clock. Our scout is recommending that we go with Andy Endara, who is a college player, a center fielder. Doesn't look like he's going to develop into a great defensive center fielder, but certainly can, certainly can be decent, and looks like he can potentially develop into a decent offensive player. So certainly somebody to consider, but I'm also intrigued by some of these college pitchers that have pretty strong intangibles and very high potential, according to our scout, who is a really, really good scout. Mike Dalton is legendary. If you look at the OOTP Scouting Association, well, they think everyone is incredible. So I'm certainly going to lean what our more nuanced eye of Mike Dalton suggests. So although he's suggesting Andy Endara, I'm going to do a little bit of a deeper dive into some of these pitchers and see if there may be a different direction to go. Well, we did end up following our scout's recommendation and going with Andy Endara with our first round pick in the 2026 amateur draft. So we will send him to rookie ball shortly, hopefully, if we can get him signed. You can see the rest of our top 5 picks here. A mix of a couple of pitchers, another center fielder, and a shortstop. Don't see any obvious immediate stars among them. The closest to contributing would certainly be, was probably a bit of a stretch to go for a reliever in the 2nd round, but there, wasn't a ton of talent there, and he clearly looks like, at the very least, could be a contributor to the major league club in relatively short order. So, would have preferred to get anything but a relief pitcher, really, with our 2nd pick in the draft. But Ramsden looked like a head and shoulders prospect over the other kind of people that were still around at that point. So we're through the draft. We're still 2 games over 500, fighting the good fight in the division. When we look at the wild card standings, we're 6 games out. So, we've almost got a better chance to win the division, where we're only 4.5 games out. Again, any playoff appearance would be a huge win for us. Our goal right now is to just kind of maintain what we've been doing, finish at 500 or better, and hopefully live to fight another day, meaning next season. Well, we've made it to August, and we've made it past the trade deadline, and the team is slipping a little bit. We're 2 games under 500 and tied for the Mets, tied with the Mets for last in the NL East. We made it through the trade deadline. We did think about trading a few of our older players that were going to be free agents after this season, but honestly, they had so little value that we were just kind of picking up a mediocre player who might be arbitration eligible next year, or just a comparable player who was also going to be a free agent. So we figured we would keep the band together to the best we could and try to make a run at a 500 season. So we've got about 2 months left, 56 games it looks like, with our 52 and 54 record. So we will see how the home stretch goes as we try to get to 500, and if we really get on a run, get back in the wild card race where we're 9 games out. So probably not going to happen, but we'll keep hope alive. Well, we're in the home stretch of the season, and it looks like we are headed to another last place finish at a 66 and 72 record. We still have a chance at a 500 season, but things have definitely unraveled a bit. But by the same token, I think we've already won, I believe, as many games as we did last year. Yeah, we were 66 and 96 last year. So unless we go 0 and 24 down the stretch, we will at least have shown significant improvement from last season to this season. A lot more attendance at the games. So it's certainly feeling better than it was, but given the number of injuries we've had, there is a little bit of wondering what the season could have been like if we had more of a complete lineup and a complete rotation for the entire season. But we've made a little progress. Still no guarantee that we'll keep our job if we finish below 500, but we will see how these final weeks of the season look. Well, the regular season is over. We finished at 77 and 85, so although we improved by 11 games from 2025, still hit a losing record here in 2026, and also missed the playoffs. When you look at the team goals that we had, definitely failed. The only positive thing is that we did sign Trevor Rogers to that extension, but our team really struggled in the second half of the year compared to the first. We ended up 14th in batting average, so although we did technically improve, it was the minimal amount that we could improve, and still pretty putrid in the comparison to the rest of the National League. So we will see what our job status is after we get through the playoffs and go from there. Well, the season is over, and due to our late season struggles, our 77 and 85 record meant that we missed our goal of getting to 500. We did improve in batting average. Technically, we moved up to 14th in the league from 15th, but not surprisingly, the ownership expects more from us. And we did lock up Trevor Rogers, which I guess helped us because we did get our contract extended for another year, although we did also get a second consecutive significant pay cut in what we're being paid. So the rope that we have seems to be getting shorter, but we are still employed if we want to be. Our budget for next season is 114 million, which is actually down a little bit from this year, which isn't going to help us. As you can see, we right now have no money available for free agents, but we do have several key decisions to make about which players we will bring back next season, notably Trevor Rogers and Dominic Smith, who are 2 of the biggest contracts that we have. So progress this year, but not really the magnitude of progress that we would have hoped. When we look at our stats for the year, Carlos Correa and Christian Arroyo, two players who we've brought in recent years with trades, with their previous teams holding on to big significant portions of their contract. Were two of our top players this year. They are both going to be free agents now, and they are both looking for pretty significant money. So we'll have openings at third and second base next year. Jesus Sanchez had a nice bounce-back season, getting to play in his regular right field position every day. Put up a 2.3 WAR. Obviously would prefer that his on-base percentage was a little higher than 304, but all things considered, at least he was a positive contributor this year as compared to last season. A couple of big disappointments for us. Devin Mann, who played first base a lot because of all the injuries we had in the outfield, generated a negative WAR. Dominic Smith moved to the outfield because of the injuries and had really a tough season, a 204 batting average in OPS of only 649, negative WAR. It's going to be hard for us to bring him back next season when he will be turning 32 years old at $11.5 million a year, so he may have played his last game with us. I think it's just a matter of whether we want to potentially try to trade him. And then looking at our pitching stats and how the season went from that front. There's definitely some bright spots there with some of the young players that we have on the team who we'll highlight here. Bizarredo was the best player on the team, had some injury issues, but a 3.40 ERA, a 3.3 WAR when we dig in deeper to his stats, that ERA plus of 121. And a FIP minus of 87. He is a good solid pitcher for us. Would prefer that he could be in the rotation, or that he could be in the bullpen rather than having to start, given that his stamina is certainly not exceptional. But he still averaged 5 innings plus a start for us, so could definitely do worse than that. William Sowers had some injury issues, but was still pretty good while he was on the major league team. Just 13 games pitched for us this year after leading the league in starts last year. But his 2.63 ERA, 1.57 ERA plus, and an 83 FIP minus. A really nice season for him. Just need him to, double the number of innings or triple the number of innings that he's pitched, and we might have something. And then Matt Olson, our young closer, had a good year for us in very limited action. Came back from a long-term injury at the very end of the season, but his ERA plus of 122 and FIP minus of 80 in his rookie season, indicates that he may be a player that's useful for us going forward. Shuta Murakami, who was our big free agent signing, was definitely not as good when he came back late in the season from his injury, but still a 3.49 ERA, 1.18 ERA plus, and 85 FIP minus. Feel pretty good about having him on a very manageable contract running from $6 to $9 million over the next several seasons. The other pitcher that we wanted to note was another one of our rookies who came up, and having problems finding him for some reason, which is weird. Maybe he... Oh, no, there he is. Dante Cuba, had a... Started out the year in AAA, and then when we had a bunch of injuries, brought him up, and he really had a fantastic rookie season for us. 171 ERA plus, 55 FIP minus. So we are very constructive that he's going to be a very important part of our rotation going forward. Only 23 years old, and number 60 prospect in baseball right now, so we're very pleased with what we got out of him in a little bit of time up on the big team also. So the other guy that we brought up near the end of the season who didn't do as well but also didn't get as good a shot is the lefty Phil Martin, who was a draft pick for us just a year ago. So a quick trip to the majors for him. Did a pretty good job down in AAA when he moved up from AA, where he was lights out. Not as strong in his four games that he pitched for us in Miami, but still think that he has potential. So we've got some young pitchers with potential. We're going to have to do more with our offense. We have a lot of players who will be potentially needing to make decisions on and or just losing because they're free agents and we can't afford them this offseason. So it's going to be another busy offseason, but we did make progress this past year. Thanks everyone for watching, and we will report back on the off season in our next episode.